I'm Jim Monahan along with Eric DeGotti and Steve Hayward from the Baseball Health Network. Steve, tell us about the hows and whys of the Baseball Health Network.
Well, I got into baseball training full-time back in 1997, and back then there were really no arm injuries. You know, there was some discomfort and complaints, but there's really no serious arm injuries. And as the years went by, more and more kids were coming up with serious injuries, whether it was a Tommy John surgery or a labrum tear or rotator cuff tear. And it got to the point where I was wondering, I had this need to find out why all these kids were getting hurt. And I had the opportunity to meet up with Dr. Ahmad, who's currently the New York Yankees team doctor, but when I met him, he was just an orthopedic surgeon. And we got into doing a series of seminars and research studies trying to find out the reasons to this problem.
Who are some of the people that you're working with now here on the Baseball Health Network?
Well, obviously myself and Dr. Ahmad were the two guys that first discussed doing this 13 or 14 years ago. But then we brought in Doug Sinella, who's the owner of Professional Baseball Instruction, pitched professionally for 10 years, has been training guys for almost 20 years. And we most recently brought in Eric DeGotti.
And Eric, what's your role with the Baseball Health Network?
Well, I actually met Steve when he was doing instruction years ago. And what we came across in our conversations is I would sit in on one of Steve's lessons, and he would be trying to get a pitcher to do a certain activity, and I'd be able to say, well, the reason why you can't do that, Steve, is because of X or Y, and then do an intervention and then be able to have that pitcher be able to do it on the spot. And we realized there's actually a lot of things that we can cross here in between the training world and the baseball world, so we're all on the same page and really create, as Steve said, a network where we can really look and focus on improving the health and performance of baseball players.
Steve, what kind of videos are you and Eric working on for the Baseball Health Network?
Primarily for arm injuries and understanding that a lot of these arm injuries aren't a result of the arm. They're a result of another part of the body throughout the kinetic chain that are causing the extra stress on the shoulder and elbow.
Eric, what are some of the topics that you'll be dealing with?
We have some short videos that we're going to talk about specific aspects of pitching mechanics, talking about something like the balance point and what are some things to improve that specific area, as well as long-form training videos that people can use in the off season, because I get asked all the time as a father of two young baseball players by parents who say, I want my son to start working out, but I don't know what to do. And oftentimes they're misled into either quick fix gimmicks, or they're put into training programs that really don't have any specificity to baseball.
And Steve, do you have an age that you recommend that someone start with the Baseball Health Network?
Baseball starts at 5 years old. Are we going to have kids doing training programs at 5 years old? No. But there are certain movements and movement patterns and things that they can do to help out their gross motor skills and just to become a better athletic person that would absolutely help them on the baseball field.
And Eric, I think the attitude towards training has changed a lot. Years ago, it was, if you lift weights, you're going to stunt your growth, things like that. How about from your angle? Age where kids can start training like this?
It's going to be really relative to where they are as an athlete, and that was the big conversation that led Steve and I together, is the huge disconnect of where we're working so much on velocity and worrying so much about how fast and how much, and we have athletes that can't do simple things like a push-up, and there's a huge disconnect there in terms of where they are athletically.
One of those gimmicks, at least I think, based on what I've been seeing, is velocity. There are a lot of programs out there claiming to increase your velocity. We'll get you throwing 5, 8 miles, 10 miles an hour faster. How important is that velocity, and what are you doing with the Baseball Health Network along those lines?
How important is that velocity is a good question. It depends on how old your kid is. If your kid is 10, 11, or 12, it's really not that important. And I think that a big reason why kids are getting hurt at the rate they're getting hurt is because we try to force velocity on these kids. I saw something on the internet that if you hook your hips in and you turn your hips, it says you can increase your velocity up to 14 miles an hour. And I know in just 4 minutes or 7 minutes, whatever it was. And I thought to myself, would I want to take my son who's 9 years old into a place throwing 50 miles an hour, and after 10 minutes have him walk out there throwing 64 miles an hour? And there's a lot of people out there who say, that'd be great. I think that would be really dangerous. I wouldn't want my kid to gain 14 miles an hour and all of a sudden now his arm is going at a completely different high rate of speed. You're just asking for trouble. So I think that these gimmicks and the velocity, it's not a bad thing to increase your velocity, but I think it needs to be a more gradual increase. And I don't think the focus should be on velocity. I think the focus should be on controlling their body and controlling the ball in the strike zone, and gradually your velocity will come.
You can find out more by checking out baseballhealthnetwork.com.